Now, my next guest has been an integral supporter of gay, lesbian and trans rights in this country since the early 1990s. Paul Barnes was the chair of the Tory campaign for homosexual equality, and with his expertise, he helped advise Stonewall in its early days to dramatically improve the lives of LGBT people in Britain at a time when they suffered grave inequality compared to world-beating freedoms and civil liberties they enjoy here today. However, he now shares serious concerns about how the group has gone from being a trusted force for good to a self-destructing organisation overtaken by extremists who want to force folk to say that trans women are the same as biological women, while urging nurseries to open discussions with 2-year-olds about gender identity. Well, tonight I can exclusively reveal that Paul, a trusted advisor during Stonewall's early years, has written a bombshell letter to the group's board of directors urging them to rethink their toxic strategy before it's too late. Sent just an hour ago, Paul writes in the letter, "Your slogan, 'Some people are gay, get over it,' perfectly summed up the success we had in winning over public opinion. But when Stonewall adopted trans rights into your remit, the core principle that you chose to fight on made tackling any hostility towards trans rights more difficult. The key difference is that while previously we campaigned to change opinion, in this case your strategy is based on trying to change facts." He goes on, "Over the past few years, Stonewall has seen its reputation damaged, its influence as a political campaigning group severely compromised, its leadership questioned by many LGBT people, its standing in the wider community undermined, its previously welcomed social equality programs poisoned, and I'm assuming its financial well-being under threat. In the eyes of policymakers, much of the media and the wider public, Stonewall has transitioned from an angel to the devil." And I'm delighted to be joined by Paul now. Paul, this is a very powerful letter from a major supporter of Stonewall historically. Do you think they're going to listen to you?
Well, I hope so, but I doubt it. That's up to them, Dan. Yeah, the point is, as I said in my letter, Stonewall, over many decades, has done a brilliant job making the lives of millions of gay people far, far better. But we did it by winning the argument, by having the debate, by winning the argument and winning people round to the fact that, gay people in the 1980s with the AIDS crisis and Section 28, we were seen as groups of people either to be pitied or hated or feared. That's where Stonewall started from. And we turned public opinion round so that actually, if you think about it, businesses, political parties, individuals, the way in which they treat gay people has been seen as a way of showing what type of person they are. If they treat you well, then they're good people. The Tory party picked up on that. David Cameron, introduced gay marriage. It's fantastic stuff. But exactly the opposite is happening now, because of the strategy that they've chosen on trans rights. I'm a great believer in trans rights, but when I actually look now, you look at a YouGov poll that came out just last month. They do it every year about people's attitudes to trans equality and trans rights. Since 2018, when Stonewall kicked off with trans women are women, at that time, more people supported that than opposed it. 4 years after Stonewall's campaign, it's changed. Now more people oppose that than support it. So Stonewall's actually pushing things backwards. And it's doing it because it's not having the debate. It's shutting people down. It's getting the changes it is getting through changing working practices and such like, because it's building on a huge amount of trust and respect and confidence that Stonewall had built up over many years, because if Stonewall told you something, you believed it. But now that's been exposed and people aren't believing it anymore. And where, gay rights was once the flagship, it's now seen as, one party leader told me, it's now trans issues are too toxic to touch. We've gone, that's why I said, from being the angel to being the devil. And when you get both the leaders, both the candidates for the leadership saying that they will distance themselves even further from Stonewall, when you get the Labour leader saying that, could we please have some calm? Can we calm down a bit? Can we deal with this in a much more respectable way? And he wouldn't even sign the trans pledge card. When the Labour shadow equality minister refused to turn up to the Stonewall fringe meeting at Labour Party conference. How can they be an effective lobbying group now if the major parties feel they're too toxic to touch? And the reason that's bad is because we need them. You know, LGBT people need leadership and need to have their views represented. But that's just not happening now.
No, indeed.
And
the rhetoric all has to change, doesn't it? Because the irony of this situation is that someone like you, who has been a campaigner for gay rights, for trans rights for so many years, taking the position that you're taking now, Paul, can see you branded by the trans extremists, as I call them, and many of them operate in Stonewall, as transphobic, which is just so damaging because it's so blatant.